None of that information was correct. That information was coming from Hamas. The truth is that we know the rocket was fired from within Gaza, failed, landed in Gaza, may not have hit a hospital, just to be clear, may have hit the parking lot, and it's been corroborated by the international intelligence community, not just the IDF. Don't always believe the first report, and it is your job to inform people who do. If you were watching the news yesterday, right, late, early evening, I guess you'd say after dinner time, right, you probably heard that Israel blew up a hospital. Now, this is not, we know beyond any shadow of a doubt, to be clear, this is not true now, but there have been 3 or 4 different stories reported since then. My question to you is, what happens to someone who just sees the nightly news at 6:30 or 7 and then tunes out? You have people walking around right now, it's 10:30 Eastern, who still believe what they watched last night throughout all the mainstream media, that Israel blew up a hospital in Gaza.
The breaking news, the devastating scene out of Gaza, where Palestinian authorities say at least 500 people were killed.
Palestinian health authorities say the hospital was struck by an Israeli attack.
A hospital in Gaza City in the northern end of Gaza.
The Slender Man.
Taken a direct hit from an Israeli airstrike.
What the hell, Scarecrow?
Like his nose is trying to escape his eyebrows.
300 people have been killed.
Seth Meyers with AIDS.
By the Gaza Health Ministry, the death toll in the aftermath of an Israeli, what's believed to be an Israeli airstrike that caused a blast at that hospital. More than 500 people are now dead. Okay,
so then let's go to about 8 to 9:30, okay, local Israel time, 9:30 p.m. Tweets, headlines all over blaming Israel for the strike, right? So we have Reuters, we have, who else? We have Jackson Hinkle, we have Reuters. Can you bring up the collage there? Yeah. Look, where Israel just bombed the National Arab Hospital in Gaza. There are reportedly dozens of dead and wounded. Why is the media ignoring this? As you just saw, they weren't ignoring this. This is what they do, right? They blame you of doing what it is exactly that they are doing. That's Solinsky 101. Andrew Breitbart was the first guy to highlight it. And it wasn't just influencers. Rashida Tlaib, member of the squad, right, tweeted this at 9:06 p.m. The timing matters. The timing matters, and you'll see why. Israel just bombed the Baptist hospital, killing 500 Palestinians, doctors, children, patients. Just like that, President, POTUS, this is what happens when you refuse to facilitate a ceasefire and help de-escalate. Yeah, Nick, you were about to say something.
I was just going to say, this proves that the Jews don't run the media.
That's a good point.
Seriously.
Kanye weeps.
No.
It's classic misdirect.
But she immediately went to, and everybody went to this line, women, children, because they're tugging at heartstrings of every single person. And as this goes on, I hope that pisses you off a little bit more as you find out the truth of the story as we go.
Yes, because like we've talked about as it related to COVID, it's not, this is what we knew at the time. No. You have to go back and say, was there other information? Did it exist at that time and you ignored it anyway? For example, was there other information that said the vaccines won't actually immunize you against contracting the virus? Yes, it did exist. Was there other information at that time that said lockdowns don't work? Yes, that existed. You chose to ignore it. There are people who continued to cover this story after at least part of the truth emerged definitively that it was not Israel who firebombed the hospital. That did not happen. We don't know all the details, but we do know that that is a lie. And that lie came from pro-Islamic terrorist sympathizers, Al Jazeera, just to be clear, and it was taken hook, line, and sinker. You just saw that number go from dozens to 500 in the span of an hour. And by the way, we can go back to then, Tlaib's response, member of the squad, threat to the national security of the United States of America, and I say that without a hint of hyperbole. It echoed what AOC said. I believe this was yesterday about, I think this is the clip of the ceasefire that went viral.
And I think the position from Israel's perspective is that there was already an attack, and Hamas already committed an attack. After that happened, do you really believe that they should not respond to that?
I think what is important in terms of response is Israel does have a right to self-defense.
I ordered a pina colada about 10 minutes ago.
In this situation is if collective punishment qualifies as defense.
Yes,
it does.
Yes, it does. Well, what do you think defense is? Because writing save the dates?
This isn't them going after all of the citizens
of
Gaza. This is them going after Hamas,
but that ties themselves. That ties into Rashida Tlaib and Ilhan Omar. The collective. They want you to believe that, look, Targeting women and children, as Hamas does, as these Palestinian terrorist organizations do, is not the same as using violence to protect your women and children. I can use a gun to rape. I can use a gun to stop a rape. I can use a bomb to kill women and children, or I can use a bomb to stop the killing of women and children. That's reductive. Sure, I'm fine with it. Now, during these initial reports, just to be clear, all of that information that you saw from the mainstream media came from, quote unquote, the Palestinian government.
That's what they said.
Yes.
You know what that means?
And this is at the same time the IDF said, hold on, we were investigating. This did not come from us.
Yeah, but do you know what the Palestinian government means?
Yeah, it means Hamas. Yeah, exactly.
It means Hamas. They didn't put that on the lower third. They didn't say Hamas says. They said Palestinian government, hoping that you wouldn't make the connection that it's Hamas giving us all of this information that's false. By the way, the minute the sun comes up, you figure out it's false.
Yeah. And by the way, just so you know, because people say, oh, not everyone voted for Hamas. It's not like a parliamentary system. Like, oh, Hamas, how many seats do we have? Will we have a veto power? It's all Hamas.
Okay? It's all Hamas these days, guys.
Yeah. Here we go to 9:30 p.m. Okay, the timeline. The IDF issued a report blaming Hamas. Okay. And they were saying, look, you can't just follow these tweets and just take them without any kind of a critical
Everybody
lens.
kept blaming Israel no matter what.
They said they didn't have all of the information, but they did say this was not. We do know that this was not one of our strikes. But Ilhan Omar, after that at 10:12 p.m. on X, still X'd out. I guess we don't say tweet anymore. Bombing a hospital is among the gravest of war crimes. The IDF reportedly blowing up one of the few places the injured and wounded can seek medical treatment and shelter during a war is horrific. President needs to push for an immediate ceasefire to end this slaughter. Russia Today had up there. More than 500 people died in the hospital missile strike in Gaza, with about 600 more injured.
What?
And this media report was citing the Gazan Health Ministry. Now, here you even have the BBC, by the way, at 10:08 p.m. on air. And again, look, let's just say at this point in time, Hamas says one thing, IDF says the other. You don't like Israel? Fine. You do have to agree that it's a 50-50 split. Now, I would argue, this is just a matter of opinion, that Hamas has a history of being slightly more dishonest. That's me, Mr. Traditional. So at 10:08 p.m., the BBC preemptively discredits the IDF reports live on air.
The Israeli military has been contacted for comment, and they have said that they are investigating. But, it is hard to see what else this could be, really, given the size of the explosion, other than an Israeli airstrike or several airstrikes. Because, when we've seen rockets being fired out of Gaza, we never see explosions of that scale. We might see half a dozen, maybe a few more people being killed in such rocket attacks. But we've never seen anything on the scale of the sort of explosion on the video I was watching earlier, which, as you say, is still to be verified.
And by the way, this is what I call the feminist defense, where it's, they'll be going world star on a guy, and then it's you can't defend yourself against a woman. You wouldn't hit a guy with glasses, would you? He's insulting them. And he's going, well, listen, even though they're saying that it wasn't in fact them, Hamas sucks so bad. There's no way in hell they could have inflicted this kind of damage. It's sad, really. I mean, they fire rockets up in the air when they're celebrating. Yeah. They have no idea what they're doing. They fail at everything. They're harmless. They're helpless. They're what the French call les incompetents. So we're going to say that it's Israel. We're going to blame the Jews, mate.
Yeah. Well, look, I want to be clear. The reason that we cited Russia Today and the BBC is because these are the people, like Al Jazeera will come up next, right? We've got them saying this as well. That is the people speaking to the Middle East. They're speaking to Europe. They're speaking to the people in the region to get them going on this story. Right. It's not just Western media like us saying the wrong thing, which they're still saying right now on CNN. Biden and Israel after devastating blast at Gaza hospital. It blew up cars in a parking lot.
Yep. Well, hold on. We haven't gotten there.
I know. I'm just saying.
That's another thing you may not know. The devastation is not what they claimed.
We'll get to that.
Yeah, we'll get to that.
My bad.
It was self-inflicted. For sure, there is video, just to be clear. We don't know exactly who was firing it. We don't know exactly the intent, but we do know that it was self-inflicted at this point, and we do know that it was not nearly as damaging as the initial report. So the initial report was dozens, but then 500 dead because of Israel in this massive bombing. Yeah. Both of those are untrue. So at 10:57 p.m., Israel, and they provided video, and this is the thing, they have to provide video because they won't be believed. They provided CNN with the evidence that the bombing was a failed rocket launch by, and I know this sounds very generic because when I say Palestinian Islamic Jihad, that's actually the organization. Yeah. It's like was it President Select version of terrorism?
It is, yes.
It's brand X terrorism. Yeah, you could do it like you're all Islamic Jihad. You can't just add a regional title. So Israel provided this evidence that the bombing was failed by that organization. And it's a low quality clip, but we'll give you some more evidence after this was provided.
The important fact that I can say now for the first time on CNN is that we did not strike that, and that the intelligence that we have suggests that it was a failed rocket launch by the Islamic Jihad.
There you go. It was a rocket.
The fact that it's on CNN gives it some credibility, but people are just going to poo-poo that.
Yeah.
It's an Israeli guy just lying. I mean, that's what you're going to hear.
Right.
But, it's not a real far leap to think that
the Islamic Jihad.
Hamas, is trying to shoot off a rocket near a hospital because they use those hospitals as human shields.
Right.
It's not a real stretch.
Right, exactly.
Right?
That's what's so funny about the BBC.
There's nothing incoming. Like your friend said over there, Josh.
Yeah.
Military guy.
Oh, I thought we were talking about the BBC guy. You actually mean a real person,
Yes, who did 21 months in Afghanistan.
Thank you for your service.
Thank you for your service.
Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely.
And he said, you don't see any incoming there.
No.
Not that you'd see a lot. He said, but that's kind of a good point, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. It's hard to believe. It's hard to think of how this could be something else. It's hard to think of how innocent civilians in Palestine could be killed by anyone other than Hamas. Sorry, IDF. Like, what do you mean it's hard to think? It's the most logical conclusion. This happens all the time.
Come on, guys.
And this isn't new, by the way. This is something that happens everywhere. It's universal, right? People are driven by ego. Everyone plays the blame game. They do it in the West. They do it in the East. They even do it here in the office. There's been a problem all morning. No one wants to take accountability. Are they still up?
Oh. Someone set off a bomb in there.
It wasn't me.
I know it was you.
It wasn't me.
Gerald A. Was he supposed to be enjoying that? It's like he walked into a Starbucks.
I just cut the checks.
I hate all of you.
So let me give you some more information here, okay? The following information, just so you're clear, all the references are made available at ladderwithcrowder.com, link in the description. It's all from open source intelligence. I think the account is OSINT, I believe, on X. And this has been, by the way, supplemented by Israeli media as well and the IDF, because we already provided you with the intel from Hamas and from the Islamic Jihadists, BBC, but I repeat myself. So here's another video that shows a non-Israeli rocket was intercepted, or it failed.
Most likely
failed. Yeah. There's an argument to be made that this probably wasn't intercepted because of how close it was still to Palestinian quote unquote territory, but near the vicinity here. This video is very close to the hospital in question.
So you see something looks like it failed there.
Looks like it failed there.
And then they pan out. And then
there you go. And then it looks like a cluster bomb at that point.
Yeah.
Here's an alternate angle from Israel's, I guess it's a Keshet.
Yeah.
Keshet. I don't know, the singer.
Keshet 12, it's the news station.
Brush their teeth with a bottle of Jack.
Oh, geez.
This is a Ring doorbell show.
Yeah.
You'll notice the white robber.
Yes.
So this was released this morning.
This is Channel 12's camera. It is a camera situated in the city of Netivot, and its view is of the Gaza Strip. You see the time stamp on this. It's 6:59, and this is when it happens. We can press play on the tape, and you can see very clearly. Again, this is Channel 12's camera. You can see the rockets. This is the left red stamp, fired over the hospital, which is the right, and you can see the blast. So that is proof of the fact that it came from the Gaza Strip.
There you go. You see that. Now, don't believe your lying eyes and ears. And here's some other evidence, which I think Gerald was really not upset about, but you thought was pivotal, and a lot of people...
Pivotal and now upset, yes.
Yes, now upset. There's plenty of news footage and images that show that the damage was actually very minimal.
Yeah.
Okay? There's even drone footage. Now, yes, this comes from the IDF, but again, it corroborates some of those other pictures there.
So the IDF is corroborating. The OSINT is just like, this is what's publicly available. It's not
right.
a specific account that's OSINT on there. There may be one of those, but it's like all of these different accounts out there saying, wait a minute, we have aerial footage now of the hospital that was supposed to be bombed, that 500 or 600 people were supposed to die in, except the hospital's still standing, and it looks like 5 Kias blew up in the parking lot. And then the IDF comes out and kind of corroborates that. So that's what we're seeing right now.
Joke's on you. I'm a Hyundai man.
Oh, fuck.
Now. Here is the footage that shows, and we'll point out here the hospital. Let's show the footage. So see that right there? That shows
before
that's
and
next
after, basically.
Before and after.
Right. So there's the hospital compound.
There's the hospital compound. There's the parking lot.
Yeah.
The buildings next to the cars aren't even blown apart.
There's the site of the fire.
You got to be kidding.
I'm not kidding. This is ridiculous.
Hospital parking lot, the side of the fire. Now,
a lot of people in those cars.
I mean, people could have died, yes, but...
Of course people could have died. But the idea, again, the first story that you heard was Israel targeted a hospital and killed 500 people, 600 more injured. That was a story that you heard. At the very least, we know that that death toll is inflated. At the very least, we know that it was not a rocket fired by Israel. And it seems as though the hospital may not have actually incurred that much damage.
It didn't. The windows got blown out. And by the way, if you're a Hamas terrorist...
If we're to believe that... In other words, if you don't trust the source, the others are irrefutable.
Right. The no footage right now has been shown. They have shown no videos of hospital on fire, hospital buildings damaged, other than minor damage from a blast that happened near it, windows blown out, stuff like that. That happens, right? I assume that didn't kill 500 or 600 people. Hamas, can you let us know? Because 5 or 600 people.
Don't invite Hamas.
It's a building.
I don't want them on the show.
I understand. That's fine. We don't want you on the show, Hamas. Maybe just tell CNN.
Maybe if they FaceTime or Skype.
I get it.
I don't want them in studio.
But here's one of the biggest problems that I have with this. The jig is up. The moment the sun comes up and you see the hospital still there, they don't care. And we'll get to why they don't care. They just need a little bit of time.
Because there are consequences to propaganda. That's the reason for propaganda. And those consequences involve people being hurt.
Right now, CNN, at this moment right now, House to vote on Speaker as Mideast reels from hospital strike. They're still running a chyron that makes it sound like somebody bombed a hospital, which did not happen.
Right. That we know.
The only person that would bomb a hospital in Gaza to most of the world is who? Israel. That's the implication.
Well, I can't see any other logical conclusion here at the BBC.
They're still running that. What it should say right now is House to vote on Speaker as Mideast finds out it was all a sham.
Don't you just miss Donald Trump as president at times like these? Yes. Like, the world woke up today and found out that Hamas are lying assholes. Isn't that right? Well, no hospital bombed by the Jews. That's something. They said, could you believe it? I said, yes.
I say it all the time.
I say it all the time. I say, of course I can believe it. Hamas, they'd bomb a hospital. That's what they do. Not the Jews. They don't bomb the hospitals. Maybe a vending machine. Maybe they bombed. So if you were tuning into the media, and this is why this matters, because some of us, and this is why we try to provide this show for you. And by the way, none of this happens without your support. Yes. Mug Club, liedowithcrowder.com/Mug Club. You get Nick's full show every day. You get Nick's full show every day. Alex Jones on Friday when he's not throwing up. We'll do another 45 minutes to hour of show here today. You get Brian Callen, Hodgkins, all of that. But we stay on top of this so that you don't have to. And this is one thing that I talk about quite a bit. A lot of people in the media, they either think you're an idiot, which is silly. I don't know why so many people revile their audience like CNN does. Or they assume that you have the time to devote to this. Like, this is our full-time job. Yeah. My interpretation is you're a smart person watching, listening right now. You could be a surgeon, and you don't have 8 hours at night to follow this story along.
Especially if your hospital's being blown up.
Yes, exactly. Especially if you're working a double. Forget about it. Unless you're a nurse during COVID, then you have nothing to do.
But dance.
So we try to put this together for you because you have to also take into consideration that there are people who tuned in to the news last night at 7 o'clock, and they are still walking around right now. And CNN, by the way, is doing everything they can to continue the lie. This is an agreed upon lie. Yeah. Someone could still think that, oh my gosh, Israel bombed a hospital, targeted women and children. They're no better than Hamas. Create a false moral equivalency, and that can shape their opinion on the conflict moving forward. That's why the timeline matters. That's why accuracy matters. So if you were tuning into the media yesterday, before we actually had some of the truth, I guess it's peeled off here in layers, you would believe that Israel definitely blew up a children's hospital in Gaza, that hundreds were confirmed dead, that there were hundreds more who were injured. Yes, that's right, a Baptist hospital. Mm-hmm. And that the international community was turning a blind eye to it, which is kind of funny when they say the international community is turning a blind eye while they are discussing it. Right. None of that information was correct. That information was coming from Hamas. The truth is that we know the rocket was fired from within Gaza, failed, landed in Gaza, may not have hit a hospital, just to be clear, may have hit the parking lot, and it's been corroborated by the international intelligence community, not just the IDF. Don't always believe the first report, and it is your job to inform people who do.
Watch Louder with Crowder live, Monday through Thursday, 10 a.m. Eastern.